And speaking as one who has difficulty chewing gum and walking at the same time, I'm a little bit intimidated. No, I'm me. It's just, so Bob, grab that microphone for a second. Bob Seidenschwartz joining us here in studio, and you have brought us a bevy of great guests today, and we're talking, great art here. We're talking ballet.
I am honored to have the people that we have here in the studio. Momentarily, I'll have Charlene Campbell introduce our guests here, but I just want to let people know we've got world-class athletes here in the studio today. There's a competition going on here in Missoula. It almost becomes commonplace for us to have these type of events here, but I'd like to introduce Charlene Campbell, who's the director of the very prestigious Rocky Mountain Ballet, and I understand the new director for Vibe. So Charlene, if you would do the honors of please introducing our guests, talk a little bit about the program that is taking place here in Missoula. So if you would, please.
This is the very beginning of a new collaboration with Vienna, and specifically with a wonderful director I met in 2014, Gregor Hatala, from the Vienna Staatsopera Ballet. And this relationship has bloomed into something that we really didn't anticipate. It literally mushroomed out of an elite ballet competition into an event that includes a diplomacy conference, which is happening on Friday on campus in harmony with Dr. Abe Kim and the Mansfield Center. And the topic of the entire week is the role of the arts in human communication. So it's a very natural fit to bring all the international voices into that discussion. And also in regards to what's happening in the world, literally daily, when diplomacy fails, it's the artists that bridge that chasm.
Can you tell me what Vibe is all about?
Vibe stands for the Vienna International Ballet Experience. And for us, it's not just ballet. We opened yesterday with the open category. And the open category would be everything we don't know where else to actually put it. You know, the tap dancers, hip-hop and our Native Americans who always travel with us when we tour internationally. So it's the diversity that we have within Montana and beyond. Actually, for me yesterday, I know some of us in this room were there. There was a beautiful flamenco dancer that just, I didn't see that one coming. And her family's all from Spain, but she came to us from Washington, D.C. So until you actually are sitting in the theater or looking in a classroom, the master classes are going on all day. We have about 26 people on the jury and the VIPs that are literally covering every continent, I think, we have. This afternoon, we've got people coming in. We have a war orphan from Sierra Leone getting off a plane this afternoon that's going to be a singer in our performances this weekend. And her mother has written a best-selling book called Taking Flight, about her other daughter who's become a great ballerina at the Dutch National Ballet. So it's a major experience.
I wanted to ask you if you could give us some perspective on how big of a deal Vibe is in the ballet world. If you could relate it to us non-ballet people, maybe associate it with another event or category, how big of a competition is this?
Super Bowl, something like that?
Yeah, let's go Super Bowl. Let's go to Super Bowl. There weren't always ballet competitions. I mean, that didn't exist in our art form really early because it was very difficult to travel. I mean, now we can all get on a plane, or it's much easier to get from place to place. Companies always traveled, the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo, the great ballet companies, but individuals didn't have the opportunity to pick up and go to a competition. In recent decades, the Prix de Lausanne's been around. It's a very famous ballet competition for maybe 45 years. There's also one in Varna, Bulgaria. There's the one we went to in Vienna. The Youth America Grand Prix has become sort of the rock star of them all. There's just this giant one with thousands of individuals. But most people, I think, who go to a competition are not just looking for a medal anymore. They're looking to be seen by the people who are international. So if you don't win a medal, it's okay.
So Charlene, speaking of these competitions and the people, we've got some amazing artists and athletes here in the studio today. Could you please introduce them and give a little background, please? And then we'll have some conversation with our guests here shortly.
Right. So right here is Walter, and Walter has been with us actually before. He's come up to study with Rocky Mountain Ballet Theater, and he has a background from Mexico and California. And he's developing his own line of choreography. He does his own choreography, heavy on the Zumba and the Latin funk, etc. And he competed in the open category yesterday, and he's progressing. He went up last night. He'll be performing in the finals on Friday.
Wow.
Standing next to Walter is Jorge Barani, and I handpicked him. I really wanted him to be here. I haven't been to Cuba yet. It's on my horizon. Astounding young dancer on the brink of a major career. It probably is already in a major career. We're lucky to have him come to Montana. And as far as I know, I think he's the first Cuban dancer we've had here.
I would love to know, if you don't mind, and if you guys don't mind, how old are you guys? I mean, you're very, very young.
I'm not
okay?
answering.
So,
Be sure to ask Peter the same question.
yeah, there you go. I'm old and gray. And like I say, I walk with a limp. So, Walter, how old are you?
I am 26.
You're 26. Okay, Jorge, how about you?
I'm 23.
23. And Maria Sasha Khan?
I'll just say I'm in my mid-20s.
Mid-20s. All right. Well, we are thrilled to have you guys here. Now, would you say that is the prime age for people
Yes.
in dance?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
Maria she'll talk to you at length too, but I mean, she was born in Montana
Yeah.
and has been around the globe, not just her whole family. Her whole family is really extraordinary. She has a younger brother at the Royal Ballet. They trained in Russia. She's got sisters who've been in Italy and Germany. So good training is good training. We any one of us, young or old, can walk into a school in China or anywhere else and speak the language of ballet.
Tell you what, when we come back, I want to get you on the microphone. I want to talk to you about your family and about all the experiences, because those of us who, my wife, born and raised right here in Missoula, okay, I was a Marine brat. I traveled a little, but nothing compared to what you guys do. I just want to find out what your average year is like, okay? Or is there such a thing as an average year? We also have all three of our phone lines open. If you'd like to visit with these remarkable individuals, give us a call at 721-1290. Maybe you've seen them dance or perform and like to visit with them. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back on Talkback, the Montana World Affairs Council on the radio, and we are surrounded by amazing talent, especially in the world of dance. We're talking with Maria Sasha Khan, who's actually from Missoula. I just grabbed that mic.
From Montana.
Yeah, you're from Montana, but Prairie, Montana.
That's where I lived for the first 2 years of my life,
Okay,
yeah.
now where is Prairie, Montana, Prairie?
So it's about an hour from Gardner.
From Gardner,
Yeah.
so it's not far from Yellowstone Park. Or,
No,
or
yeah, I
Glacier-
grew up going to Yellowstone Park,
Okay.
bike riding to the entrance there. And,
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what got you started in dance to start with?
I was taught from a young age that everybody has a special and unique gift that they can give to the world, and I was encouraged to sort of discover what that was, and also to understand that, there's a big wide world out there, and whatever your passion is could be pursued as a profession.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved, horseback riding. I loved skiing when I was little. I had to stop now because if I break my leg, that's not very
It's kind of the end for you, yeah.
Yeah. Classical painting, cello, all sorts of things. But ballet was the thing I was most passionate about.
Now, did you go to traditional grade school or in your first years, or did you have a different kind of schooling?
The education of a ballet dancer is different because it's a very, very young profession.
Mm-hmm.
So by 18, you've already received your professional training, and you move on into a professional company, sometimes 19. But so from a young age, it's important to get good training and of a high level, and you coach and you work very intensely, from day to night from a young age. And on top of that, though, you still do have your full academic schedule. So I have to say, I think in dancers, in general, ballet dancers are quite driven because you really put, everything you have into it.
So describe, if you will, those of us who watch football and basketball and baseball, we know that the athletes spend a lot of time in the training room and pumping iron and all that sort of thing. What is the average training session for you like?
It changes from company, from when you're in school. When you're in school, you will spend the whole day from 8 a.m. until sometimes 8 p.m. Rehearsing a lot of ballet classes to get your technique perfected. And it's 6 days a week. Once you enter a company, sometimes you don't have a day off for 3 weeks because of the intense performing schedule. So when you enter a company, then the focus will shift towards performing. So your day will be filled with a smaller amount of training and a lot of rehearsals. And it's something that, it's definitely not a 9 to 5 thing. You're performing, you're working evening, weekends, mornings.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about being part of a company. It's like if you can use the same analogy, it's being part of a team. It's
Exactly.
When you look at a really good basketball or a football play, there's a lot of movements. You're supposed to go here, you're supposed to go
Yes.
there, and when you slow it down, it can look like a piece of ballet, right?
Yeah.
So
And it's, I guess, a little bit the same as far as when you graduate from school, you audition, but I guess it would be like how in the NFL, like you're recruited into the team. So in that way, I guess you could make the parallel reference of that. You go to auditions and then you'll be accepted into a company. And then, you perform, all together. The difference is that, in football, you're part of a team. And of course, there's different positions and there will be star players. But it's not that there's like a specific role that's the main role. So in ballet, you have principal dancers, which will be at the top of the company. And then you have soloists, which will dance the medium roles. Sometimes you'll have demi-soloists, at least in Europe. And then the corps de ballet is the group, which you will dance. Sometimes it will be 8, sometimes it will be 32 girls dancing all together doing the same thing.
So we're talking about competition. How
Yep.
fierce is the competition within the world that you exist? I mean, we've all seen movies and had some experience, and we go, it looks
not
pretty
as bad
intense.
as Black Swan. There's, of course, a very fierce competition, and it's something that most dancers have worked so hard for from when they're very young, and it's a short career. So you really go for it on an everyday basis. It's not the kind of thing where you wait around.
now, are you you're obviously professionals. You get paid for dancing, right?
Yes, it's your job.
It isn't just doing it for the joy of dancing. And here's
yes.
a crust of bread, by the way.
Sometimes it feels like that, but no, it's not.
Okay, John, you had a question.
Yeah. My question was, you said you started dancing when you were really young.
Yes.
You travel all the time.
Yeah.
And, as a parent, I realize there's got to be a lot of sacrifice. I probably couldn't have your job and have the life that I have. Mm-hmm. What do you feel are the biggest things that you've had to sacrifice to have the job that you have?
I of course there's sacrifices, but the thing is I've never looked at them necessarily as sacrifices because I was given the opportunity to pursue my dream and to do what I wanted to do with my life. So anything else that came with that, I didn't look at it so much as a sacrifice, because it's kind of like, okay, well, I have the greatest thing I wanted to do with my life. From there, everything is amazing. So yeah, it's difficult. You travel a lot. I see my family once a year. We all get together in Montana, and you definitely, which again I've looked at as a positive. You learn a lot about different cultures. You learn a lot. I've learned 3 different languages. You also come in contact with many different levels of society. So you see how different people live and what's considered normal for them, and it's been a great education.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and Bob asked me to ask you, what do your parents do aside from chase you around the world?
Yeah, there are 4 of us to keep track of,
Right,
so that
right.
keeps them very busy. My mom, from the age of 22, she was a fashion designer. She worked in London, New York, Paris. She moved to Montana. She knew this was a great place to raise a family. My father's a classically trained pianist. However, he's now a computer programmer. It's better money.
But you're still using those magic fingers, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
On a keyboard, of all things.
Exactly, there you go.
Right. So we're going to come right back, and we're visiting with Jorge and Walter when we come back. If you have any questions, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you at 721-1290. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. This is Talk Back of the Montana World Affairs Council on the radio, quite literally bringing the world right into the middle of your radio, ladies and gentlemen. So, Jorge, get right on that microphone there, young man. Now Jorge, pronounce your last name again for me.
Jorge Barani.
Barañe. Okay, we are proud to have you with us. You are from Cuba.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you have a fascinating story about how you started in dance in Cuba and how you how you got to Missoula, Montana.
Okay, I started when...
Yeah, maybe Walter, you can help out a little bit. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, well, go ahead and do it in Spanish, and Walter will translate.
Empecé cuando tenía 9 años en la escuela de ballet. Soy de Matanzas, Cuba. Luego pasé a la Escuela Nacional de Ballet en La Habana.
Okay, go ahead, Walter.
He started when he was 9 years old in the school of Matanzas, Cuba, and he moved from there to Havana.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Bob.
We were earlier talking about somebody had said one of the two principal countries in terms of ballet are Russia and Cuba, which came as a bit of a surprise to us. And it just occurred to me that Russia's relationship with Cuba, did that have the primary effect on developing Cuban ballet and dance?
Sí, las personas dicen que las dos mejores escuelas que hay es la de Cuba y la de Rusia porque la técnica es como que muy súper que parecida, tú sabes.
Yeah, the reason is because a lot of people compare Cuba and Russia's technique, and they're very, very similar. They're they are practically the same.
Turn my mic back on. What kind of dance do you specialize in, Jorge?
¿Qué tipo de baile de especialistas?
Bueno, en el ballet clásico.
Classic ballet.
Classical ballet, okay. And now what about you, Walter?
Well, I'm more of a Latin hip hop dancer. I've been dancing for now, I think, 7 years. I started late. The reason was because I was raised in Mexico, and there's not so many opportunities in Mexico for male dancers. You know, back in the time, now there is. But I came back into. I was born in California, and I was raised in Mexico. So I came back, and I started having opportunities here in LA. I got signed by an agency, and I've been doing more of a commercial kind of dance.
So go ahead, John.
I was going to ask you, what is commercial dance? Obviously, everyone's getting paid for their dance here, so what do you mean when you say that?
Commercial is most likely focusing on media, such as commercial music videos. It's not as competitive as they are, especially because it's a little bit more restricted. It's more restricted to the director and the creator of the media. They tell you what to do practically. So that's why I keep in contact with Charlene, because I like to create. I like to be the choreographer. I love to create and show my art in front.
So when you performed yesterday, and now you're into the finals, did you perform an original piece?
I did. I choreographed my own piece, and it's a little bit more of a Latin. I call it Latin flirt, which is jazz. Latin and hip hop mixed it up, and I'm trying to create my own name. You know, I like to be a little bit more original. Obviously, I've been influenced by a lot of artists and a lot of dancers as well.
So what are you hoping to get out of Vibe? Of coming to Missoula, traveling all this way, what do you hope you walk away with?
I told my friends when I left LA, and I was like, I'm honestly not looking. I'm not going to win. You know, the reason why I'm going is to learn. You know, every single experience, every single time that you come, I'm meeting amazing people as they are. You know, it's just getting to connect with people who are doing great things around the world. It's just so fulfilling for myself.
Now, when you meet somebody like Maria Sasha, and you create that connection, is there a way that the two of you perhaps could collaborate someday?
I mean, I would love to, you know.
Now, Maria,
who wouldn't,
grab
you
that
know?
microphone
Who
there.
wouldn't, you know?
In what way could you and Walter, or perhaps you and Jorge, collaborate in some sort of routine or dance or whatever?
The ballet world has changed a lot in the past 10 years, as far as it used to be strictly classical ballet that you would do, and now it's very diverse. You do contemporary classical, neoclassical, and I do think it has in part to do with social media, but a lot of dancers have collaborated with hip-hop dancers, commercial dance. They've been in even music videos. So there is a lot of opportunity to collaborate and be very creative.
So the walls are tumbling down.
They are.
Yeah, dancing is a language, you know, and I feel like no matter what kind of dancing you do, you can speak the same language in any time.
Wonderful.
You know?
Tell you what, we're up against our last break for this hour, and we're going to come right back. We have a lot more to come here on the Montana World Affairs Council on the radio, right here, from this presented by our friends at the Montana World Affairs Council and Bob Seidenschwartz. We'll continue with our guests after the top of the hour news here on KGVO. Right now, it is 8:56. We'll be right back.
Yeah, that's right. I think you can find that on 42nd Street.
Welcome back to Talkback, the Montana World Affairs Council on the radio, brought to you in part by locally owned Office Solutions and Services. Download their Office Shopper app for purchases, barcode scanning, and to search for products, and by Transport Equipment, your headquarters for RV service maintenance and repair, just south of the Y. Call 541-9097. All right, I'm Peter Christian. That's John King. Bob Seidenschwartz joining us here in studio. And the first half hour, we had a chance to visit with the dancers and find out, what they're like, where they're from, some of their experiences. So go ahead, John.
Now it's time to grill them.
Actually, what I really wanted to do is take just a moment, because one of the things you brought up, Bob, was the whole diplomacy issue.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to ask a question about. My question was this. So you're all from all over the world, different parts, different sections, and I'm sure there's downtime. Do you talk about international politics at all amongst each other? Do you find a lot of agreement or disagreement? Does ballet bring you together, or do you find you still have some cultural differences when you speak with each other?
You said, say what?
I found that, for example, in Germany, the company that I worked with right before going to Russia, there's 35 different nationalities. So the thing that has brought you together is your love of ballet and the art form. So sometimes you'll encounter it. To be honest, most of the time, no. We're focused on our art form, and that's what we're there for.
Sure. Well, you live in Russia, right?
That's where, yeah.
So Russia, United States, not the closest on the world stage
are
right
not.
now. We're having some difficult times.
Yes.
And frankly, compared to the last 30 years, it's not that bad, but it's pretty bad. So does that come up at all? Do people look at you or treat you different because of your background in the United States? Or does it just kind of get wiped away because
Or do you
of
speak
dance?
really good Russian?
My brothers do. My brothers, they're considered basically Russian. They went to the Bolshoi Ballet Academy in Moscow for 6 years and are actually the first. My older brother, Julian, was the first American to ever graduate with a full Russian diploma. Wow. And my littlest brother, he's the youngest to ever go there. So they're also great diplomats in that way. But
how old are they?
So Julian had just turned 18 and Nicholas is 14.
Okay.
And their Russian is good enough that basically they can get out of any situation.
Yeah. Practically ready for retirement.
Yeah. So most of the time my mom, gets asked, I don't understand, why doesn't your mom speak Russian? They're like, because we're Americans. Like, no. You speak Russian like a Russian. You have to be Russian. I think that they take ballet very seriously there. So in that way, the whole country is very focused on it, whereas in the States it's a little bit separate. Culture is a little bit separated from just the normal everyday life people have, and so you do experience some of it. I don't think that on an everyday basis people are looking at you like that, but I'm the only Westerner who was invited, for example, to dance in Yekaterinburg. So a lot of the company members, a lot of even the people in the city, didn't come into contact with Westerners very often. So I found a mix of some people who perhaps because they hadn't come into contact with Westerners were not very happy to meet you. And actually, though, the majority were very intrigued, very interested because it wasn't something they had experienced.
Especially when they found out you were from Montana. Come on.
Well, they did, yeah. They didn't believe me. They said, it gets to like minus 35 in the winter. I said, that's fine. I'm from Montana. I'm used to it. They were a little bit like, where are you from? So
I wanted to ask Walter, so you've grown up in Mexico and in California, and you said you had very different experiences when it came to dance in these two countries. I was hoping you could kind of explain why you think that was.
Actually, what I was going to say, it's about the question that you asked. Respect is respect all over the world. And, I feel like if you're traveling to somewhere else, you have to adapt yourself and think as they are thinking. The reason why when I moved from Mexico, my mentality was like, okay, Spanish is my first language so far. I don't know English, so I'm going to learn English. Because I don't want to be treated as somebody else. I want to be part of the culture. I love learning culture, and I feel like what dancing has brought into us, bringing new communities together, that they might not think the same way, but they speak the same language.
yeah.
So you said something earlier about when you left Mexico that somebody asked, is dance popular? And you said it's not. Is that a cultural issue really relating to machismo, the maleness of what we perceive in terms of the country? And was that a challenge in Mexico for you?
Yes, it was that at first. I couldn't train into. It's funny because the first thing that I wanted to do is Hawaiian dancing, and especially because I'm a male, I cannot do that. And it was very, very hard for me just because I always was attracted to the arts. I was always watching videos and dancers, and it is, but at the same time, economy. Opportunities are very, very low when you have very low income in your families. So there's some schools they provide dancing for other male dancers. The thing is that there's not that many opportunities, or there's not money enough for people to afford those schools.
So in the case of Cuba with Jorge, was that something state sponsored so that culture and that environment was nurtured in Cuba, contrary to what Walter's saying in terms of Mexico?
Era difícil con la economía y en contraste con México.
Bueno, en realidad, como que no es tan difícil, porque en Cuba el ballet, tú sabes, en Cuba no hay que pagar nada para estudiar ballet. Sencillamente cuando tienes el talento, tú sabes, cuando lo puedes hacer ya, pero después cuando uno llega ya al final así de la escuela, como que uno quiere coger y conocer más, tú sabes, otras cosas, y bailar otras cosas, conocer a personas diferentes, y por eso viajé a México y me dieron un contrato en México, ahí me contrataron en el ballet de Monterrey y luego me vine acá a Estados Unidos.
It wasn't so much of the economic, because if you have the talent, it's easy for you to study in Cuba. But if you move, but as soon as you finish your training, you want to explore more. So he moved into Mexico, actually, into another part where he got a scholarship, and he studied there, and then he moved into the United States just because he wanted to do more.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and there will be a test on all this later. So, just kidding, everybody. But seriously, we do have all three phone lines open. If you would like to visit with these remarkable individuals, we'd love to hear from you. It's 721-1290. We'll be right back. But I got to tell you, first of all, that Talkback is brought to you in part by Bull's Eyewear, where they offer some of the lowest prices in town on contact lenses. See Lynette at Bull's Eyewear, 2910 South Reserve. Also brought to you by Selway Armory on Stockyard Road. More guns and ammo than anybody in Missoula. The best prices in Montana. Montana's premier firearms dealer. We'll be right back. Appropriately enough, a little dancing music. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. Okay, we are back. The Montana World Affairs Council on the radio. John King, I'm Peter Christian, Bob Seidenschwartz. We have a room filled with probably more talent that's ever been in this room before. So
That's not saying a whole lot.
I know. But listen, 2 times 0 is still 0, okay? The math never changes. So we were right in the middle of talking about some diplomacy things, and you wanted to talk about some things here, so go ahead.
Well, the dance.
This is Charlene, by the way.
Sorry. That elite issue, people perceive ballet, especially in the USA, as some sort of an elite-only activity. And part of what we hope we're going to, bring to the table this week too is in other cultures, it's not the word isn't elite. They admire it. All walks of life really admire not just their dancers, their musicians, their fine artists, and they aspire to that. They go to the galleries, they go to the symphony, they play music in the street, they improvise. I mean, every culture in the world embraces the arts really deeply for admiration. So in the USA, this idea that it's an elitist thing that only the people who can afford a ticket at Lincoln Center. That drives people away from our art form, and that's a disappointment. It should be for everyone.
Could you, from your experience, and you travel all over the world, and you've just given us a little background, why do you think that's the case in the United States? And by the way, tickets aren't cheap at Lincoln Center. So,
right.
Is it a cost issue? So if you're in Italy or in other countries, do you see similar types of economics? And there's got to be some other insights you can share here.
Right. Well, a couple of things. I mean, number one is, yes, I mean, we've been to the Beijing Dance Academy in China many, many times. When I go to teach there, I mean, right now this week, I am struggling to find, a studio space for Jorge and the Korean dancers and everybody to have their time, not just because we're a small town, but we have 2 or 3 studios in our building. In Beijing, there's 60. There's 60 in a country that, there's one ballet company in Beijing. There's one in Shanghai. The access for these dancers is 100%, 1,000% support to get them, like Maria is saying, perfect, training, to train the athlete somewhat like you would be talking about a basketball star, or to make them give them everything.
So what is the cultural valuation that makes what you just described different there as opposed to here? I mean, we're a vast country. We love our sports. We're competitive as can be, and I know dance is extremely competitive. So what's the primer, to unlock what you're describing here?
Well, in other countries, I think they're steeped in history more than we are in our art form. And and in Montana, or not just Montana, the USA, we're struggling to keep our art form relevant. We have to prove to the world that in our country that this is a relevant thing, and that's why we're the country that actually breeds a lot of great choreographers as well, and the hip hop and all these other things. Because even though ballet is ballet and is the diamond in the tiara, we as artists in this country have to keep bringing it to our fellow Americans as not just learn it, go to it. See it.
Sure.
And may I introduce Bridget?
Yeah.
Okay, so Bridget McDonough is with us here, and Bridget is on our jury, and she's also here for the diplomacy conference. And I've worked with Bridget for 30 years. We met in Chicago doing light operas together. She runs a company called Light Opera Works. She's traveled the world with her organization as well, been to Russia, etc. And she is a marketing genius when it comes to the arts. So take it from here.
Yes, my name is Bridget McDonough, and I'm from Chicago. And I'm a business person in the arts, so I'm the producer and the money person. So a very interesting thing here in the United States is because we do not have state theaters or state-sponsored arts, even the not-for-profit arts world is still market-driven. So even the not-for-profit organizations still have to sell tickets. So in other cultures where their art history may be embraced as national treasures, say the operettas of Vienna or the ballets of Moscow, here in the United States, we let things fall by the wayside as they are no longer relevant. An example might be a very popular musical theater composer in 1900 was Victor Herbert, the most famous composer of musical theater in the country and the richest, and the founder of ASCAP. And his works really exist now in a room in the Library of Congress. They're not relevant anymore. We don't keep things alive as other cultures do. And that's good and bad because, as Charlene said, it drives innovation in a way that in other countries sometimes the performing arts are museum pieces. But here, it's driven by the market.
Does it matter that we're such a young country? And because you look at other countries with hundreds and hundreds of years of tradition of ballet, of music, of theater, things like that, whereas America, we're kind of our nose to the grindstone, make a living, that kind of thing. Or is that the wrong way of looking at America now?
Well, I think for a long time here in the United States, we were copying and embracing 19th century European art forms, ballet being one of them, and symphony orchestras and opera. But as we moved into the 20th century and became more wealthy, people had more leisure time, we were able to start developing new kinds of art, the American musical theater, the hip hop, jazz. We have a lot of indigenous art forms that are embraced around the world, that Americans travel all over the world and foreigners embrace. But when they come back to their own hometown, often they're barely known. And maybe Rocky Mountain Ballet Theater is an example of that.
I wanted to ask you, we know that the internet affected the music industry heavily. Obviously, we've got plays being disrupted by movies, all these things. How did technology affect dance? Because we grew up as a country with a lot of new technologies in those formative years when we were building our cities. And most of the people, when they think of going to the theater, they go to their living room.
Yeah. We're going to answer that when we come back from the break.
Maybe watch one of Walter's music videos. I
have to be the commercial sheriff. So we're going to come right back with more of Talk Back here in just a moment. 3 lines still open, 721-1290. Oh, if only you guys could be here during the breaks, I'm telling you. All right, 721-1290 is our
Couple of
number.
Irishmen here.
John King, I'm Peter Christian. Bob
Chicago, New
Seiden.
York.
Bob
He's in Chicago.
Seidenschwartz getting himself in big trouble here with our special guests. So why don't we pick up this
For
discussion?
the record,
Yeah.
art is not elitist.
Okay, all right.
But
What
during the break, there was
during
okay,
the
go
break.
ahead.
What we were talking about is just how did the arts, in terms of what we think of the traditional arts that was being described before, the opera, the ballet, coming from Europe, who had the resources to kind of bring and endow that here in the United States? And we, being a country of immigrants, principally poor immigrants coming from various countries, they brought their culture, they brought their music and such. But in terms of that bigger, more established, that was something that had to have some resources behind it.
Right, and the arts still does need to have resources behind it. So in in many countries, it is the state that supports the arts. So where you have the Vienna State Opera, that's maybe, I'm talking off the top of my head, but maybe 90% of their income is coming from government. We don't have any organization at all in the United States that's funded 90% by the government. In fact, most arts funding from the government is about maybe 1% of a company's operations. But certainly what we were talking about, the big major European art forms of ballet and symphony and opera are expensive art forms that do require, oftentimes here in the United States, wealthy individuals and foundations to back them up and able to be done in the way that they were meant to be done. If I could tie it back to the comment about what about the media and dance and the arts, that's challenging live performance now. And we don't know where that's going to come out. And it's bringing new art form and new energy. And I think right now, dance has never been more popular because of media. And even a lot of people don't know this, but classical music has never been more popular. It plays to more people now than ever in history. And that's because of media. Will the live performance be able to compete with art that can be delivered in the palm of your hand anytime you want, anywhere you want? I think it still can compete because live performance is special. And those people in the Missoula area that will come to the final gala concert at 1 o'clock at the Wilma on Saturday will see the energy and feel the energy of live performance in a way they cannot get by watching a television dance competition.
So, Bridget,
so it'll always survive, but it's going to morph. And artists like Walter and Jorge will help it morph.
I absolutely agree. Being behind a camera, it's completely different being on stage and giving a live performance in person.
You emotionally relate to it very differently.
You relate to the people. You get to see who you're dancing for.
Right.
You know, being behind a camera, yes, it's fun. You're creating, you're putting your media, and you can see it anytime you want it, but it's different feeling.
Well, here's the difference. The difference is when you're recording, stop, take two, stop, take three. I blew that. Let's edit this in. In live performance, it ain't happening, baby, right?
Exactly.
You have to hit it right every time. And when you see that live performance and you look at the ease, you make it look so easy. And what we don't see are the hours and hours and weeks and months of training to hit that spot and hit that point in the music where it just brings people out of their seats. That is amazing.
It's funny because when I started dancing, I was watching a lot of videos, and I was thinking about videos, and one of my professors said, you know what, you have to buy a ticket and go see a live performance. And I didn't understand what she meant until I did. And it was just incredible just to see the beauty. And it's not only just the dancers, but the element of music, the element of lighting, because all these are arts, are part of arts, and creating a whole material with so many kind of pieces,
And by you being here in Missoula, you're bringing that vibe.
Exactly.
I know what you did there.
And the one thing that's
There's that $5.
Yeah, okay, buddy.
and the one thing that's important for the residents of the Missoula area is to come to the performances, look online at the Destination Missoula website, where they will give all of the classes and the competitions that are happening today and tomorrow. You can find them online at Destination Missoula. You can attend all of the competitions for free. There is no charge at all. And you then can give back to the performers who are here from all over the world. They want to feel your reaction. You, the audience, and you, the citizens of Missoula, are an important part of the competition. It's not just what the performers are giving to the audience. It's what the audience is giving back to the performers.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, we're up against a break, so I'll ask this and you can answer when we get back. I want to find out if you could just describe what you mentioned, classes. I'd like to know, are the artists that are there, are they giving classes for people who are spectating, or are we talking for people who are learning, or students at the university or high school students? I just want to find out who these classes are for and what they're all about. So we're going to come right back again with more on Talkback, the Montana World Affairs Council on the radio. Hey, welcome back to Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, and Charlene Campbell-Carey is joining us here in the studio, director of the Rocky Mountain Ballet. And I wanted to ask you about the aspect of, I heard you say, not just performances and competitions, but classes. Mm-hmm. So what are these classes all about?
Well, as Maria said earlier, you have to stay in shape and train, right? So the dancers are right in the middle of a competition. They must be able to take their daily bread, which is their ballet class or their contemporary class. This is many facets to this. The jury is teaching. So the jury gets to see the dancers.
Who's on the jury? I know we've already met Bridget. She's on the jury.
Ming-Yan Kui from the National Ballet of China Legacy. Wow. Hei Shi from Korea. Anarela Sanchez from Cuba. Patricia Wilde, who's the greatest legend in our history, former prima ballerina for New York City Ballet, American Ballet Theater director, Pittsburgh Ballet Theater director. She's has a book coming out of, it's part of our diplomacy conference, about her life, called Wild Times with Patricia Wilde. She was Balanchine's muse, and the book is about a lot about her diplomacy and being in the Soviet Cold War with Balanchine in Russia. Leslie Stevens, Hubbard Street Dance Company Broadway star. Guy Debach from Naples, Italy. Alexandra Zahetner from Sunrise Studios in Austria. Mike Lowenrosen, poet, author, choreographer, director. And he's going not just on the jury, he's going to talk to the German clubs. And we have Lori Horowitz, former book-to-movie agent at Creative Arts Agency, the most powerful agency in the world. She's here moderating panels, and she's actually over at Big Sky today working with the journaling class. Ming-Yan Kui gave Chinese folk dance to the Mali group over on campus. Wow. MCPS is immersed in the programs K through 12. Walter, who's in the studio today, is going along with Isaiah Kim, our other hip-hop dancer. And there's one other boy going too. Aiden from Los Angeles into the schools tomorrow to perform for them.
I'm sure the students will hate that, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I say classes, there's a daily routine for every competitor, taking their ballet, their contemporary, these other things, being seen by the jury in a different way instead of just in their performance. These dancers want contracts, not just medals. They want to be able to be seen without traveling to 20 companies. The companies are here to see them. And there's a lot more, there's more jury members.
This is like pro day.
It's
Charlene, I've got to ask you, because as we're talking about what they have to do, these are pretty lean people. They're in amazing shape. What are your diets like? Do you have somebody that helps you with that? Or are you, hey, give me the Big Mac and let me loose? So tell us a little bit about what you have to do every day to keep yourself in shape.
I will let them do that, but shame on you for saying that. They really do need to not just watch their weight. I mean, you protein for the men is what I always experienced. I never met a male dancer that wanted to have champagne and cake at the end of a performance. They always wanted a big steak. How about you, Jorge? What's your dance routine for eating?
Well, here, yeah. So what?
Tu dieta, ¿qué es lo que
Bueno, para mantenerme en forma es mucho entrenamiento y bueno, y yo que puedo, tú sabes, comer lo que quiera porque tú sabes, mi constitución es, tú sabes, estoy bien flaco, so.
Su cuerpo natural. I mean, I'm stuck. Sorry, the switch kind of got messed up. He said that his body naturally is slim, so he honestly just eats anything he wants. But some people are blessed like that.
I
Some
have
of us
a
eat
bag
M&M and we
of
gain
chips.
20 pounds.
I have a bag of a bag of Chips Ahoy's cookies in my bag
Well,
here.
while you're in Missoula, you should definitely stop by the Big Dipper ice cream. Some of the best ice cream in the world. I had a question for you, or maybe a clarification. So I went online and I was looking to hope to bring my daughter to see some free dance. Free is a buy-in for me to almost anything. So I was going to go take her and check it out. But I kind of got a little upset because it looked like I wouldn't be able to go because of my work schedule to be able to take her. And she's in school. So, but you can dispel that myth, I guess, now. Almost any time you
Yeah,
can
I
go
can-
and see some dancing this
Here
week.
I go. Woof. I recommend going to rmbt.org for Rocky Mountain Ballet Theater. Click on the Vibe tab. We're updating it, 24 hours a day. And believe me, it's constantly changing. And that's a good thing. It means that we're shuffling one teacher over somewhere or bringing somebody to come to a radio interview, etc. But today is the Contemporary Dance Challenge, and it's from 11 to 2 this afternoon. But when we're done with that, how this works is we start letting the next group of artists get on stage to rehearse for their performance. So there's these breaks, that are performance and then preparation and then performance
So
and
there's
preparation.
always something happening.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's going on and on and on. So tonight, after we're done, we will begin to space, as the dancers would say, on stage in the Denison Theater until we're done. And that will probably go until about 10 o'clock. And why about 10 o'clock? Tomorrow's the classical ballet and neoclassical ballet day. And oh my goodness, there are so many of them. It is going to be a very, very long day filled with dancers from, age 10 to, I don't know, close to 30 probably.
Starting when?
It
does it
starts
start?
tomorrow morning. We start warming up at 8 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah. If we're lucky, we'll finish at 8 p.m.
So, question for both of you. This does not come cheaply. You're talking about many people coming from all different parts of the world here in the United States. How does this get financed? And who supports this?
We're all
I
standing
doubt
out in front of Walmart.
Austria's pumping out 90% of the funding for this.
This is a very, very large challenge for Rocky Mountain Ballet Theater to offer this event here at home. The very great big moment in September was when the Washington Foundation came in, and thank you so much. And partially because it's such a broad-based community event. It's not just an arts event. As I said, the educational component for children through all ages is huge. It's also a huge benefit to the community. All these people attending, and that's not just the international guests. It's it's the 50 people coming in from Bozeman and the 50 people coming in from Helena and 25 from Salt Lake City. All of those people. So the economic benefit, of course, is great to the city of Missoula. It's going to establish new friendships across everything. We have a lot of scholarships.
No, we're up against a break, but I want to
Yeah.
ask you one quick thing. Is this something that's going to happen every year, or is this kind of a once-in-a-lifetime gig here?
Ask me next week.
Okay.
We're still raising money for this event. Let me
okay.
put it that way. We had about $192,000 challenge, and we're still $50,000 short. So I'm still in continuing to raise money for this particular week.
Okay. We're going
And
to go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the one ticketed event is Saturday at 1 o'clock at the Wilma.
How much are the tickets?
$25 to $100.
Okay.
And it is the Academy Awards of Cultural Exchange. So I highly recommend everybody get out to see that.
Fantastic. We will take a quick break at 721-1290. We would love to hear from you. We haven't had any phone calls yet. I'm really interested about that. We're going to come right back with more of Talk Back in a moment. Welcome back. This is Talk Back. 721-1290 is our number. Bob Seidenschwartz joining us, the Montana World Affairs Council on the radio. And Bob, you were just visiting with Bridget and Charlene about this whole idea of cultural diplomacy. That's kind of what we're talking about. So would you want to pick that up for us?
Yeah, just Charlene was just saying it so succinctly. talking about not only just the economic impact, but look at all the people that are coming here to Missoula. Now, they're going to come here and then they're going to go back home. And what are they going to do when they go back home? They're going to share their impressions. They're going to share the relationships that they've developed. And it's a very different type of, feeling as opposed to, we went to New York. We went to Los Angeles, as you were pointing out, Bridget. You come from Europe, you go to New York, you go to L.A., you go to Grand Canyon and Vegas. Not exactly what America is. I mean, yes, it is, but there's a whole different world out there. So let's share and talk a little bit about that in terms of the impact that you're making here.
Yes, my experience in Chicago, being in the center of the country and also a Wisconsin native, and is that when I've brought international visitors to Chicago, they're just blown away. They have no idea how beautiful it is. I take them up to Wisconsin, to the lakes. And here, of course, in western Montana, you have the beauty of nature, the mountains, and really the people. The people here in the center of the country, a lot of foreigners don't get to come to these parts of the United States. They're also, I think, when they come to these parts of the United States, the West and the Midwest, it really gives them the opportunity to realize what a huge country this is. This is not, we are not just New England and Los Angeles and the Grand Canyon. It's a huge country, but also the friendliness and the warmth of people from the Midwest and the West usually blows people away. Right. And they get to go back home, and it's not just the American military or our military power. They don't go back with just that impression. They go back with impressions of the warmth and friendliness of Americans.
And with that, that's a great lead into this question. And what has the reaction been? How has the response been from people of Missoula to the artists who are here?
I think Charlene can answer that as a
Charlene?
Missoula resident.
Go ahead.
We've been bringing people in, for years, but just not this many at one time. It's curiosity again, right? I mean, we come from a remote part of our own country, and so anytime we get somebody who's coming from a faraway place, there's just so much curiosity and a lot of questions about how to create more mutual understanding between our two countries.
Right, sure.
Let's ask our dancers.
Yeah.
Tell you what, we actually have some callers now. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Bueno, en verdad, aquí me siento como si estuviera en casa, porque todos me han tratado muy bien. Y le doy las gracias a Charlene por invitarme y por sus consejos y por todo.
Okay. He said that actually the values from here, from Missoula, has been the same, very similar to his family, to his culture, because people have been training him so well. He's very thankful to Charlene for the opportunity and for the advice and for letting him experience this place.
We need to. Well, what? Yeah, we'll have to strap on the headphones. What? We're not going to strap. Oh yeah, here's what we're going to do. Now that's okay. I'm going to ask Stuart a question, and then I'm going to turn the microphones off so that you can hear what Stuart has to say. So we're going to do that this way. All right, Stuart. Good morning. You're on Talkback. Do you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I do. My daughter is 12 and she dances ballet, and Maria Sashikhan is her idol, and she wanted me to ask if she has any advice for a 12-year-old ballet student.
Well, unfortunately, Maria had to leave, but we do have Charlene that has to respond to your question.
Maybe she better get over to the question and answer period, which is happening after Maria's master class this morning.
Great.
It's actually happening. Hang on a second. And Maria is going to be with us all week. If you come to the theater today, tomorrow, Saturday, you can meet Maria and talk to her. And
believe me, you can't miss her.
You can't miss it. What time is Maria's class? She's actually teaching. She's teaching this morning from 10:30 to 12, and then there's a question and answer period with her from 12 to 12:30, and it's in my studio at Rocky Mountain Ballet Theater. And then she goes on to teach a point class.
Okay, now where is Rocky Mountain Ballet Theater
Rocky
located?
Mountain Ballet Theater is at 2704 Brooks. Our
Okay.
parking lot faces the Montana Club.
There you go. Awesome. Okay.
But these artists are accessible, is what I'm saying, and that's what's different about this competition too. They're not secluded in some back room. As you can see, we're out at radio shows and having dinner around town. And if the Missoulians have a question for them, come on over.
Just walk right up,
Come
right?
on over.
Yeah.
And we'll be in the theater this afternoon. Maria is on the jury panel for the competition in classical ballet tomorrow, so she'll be in the theater all day then. And if she really loves Maria, she should come see her perform. She's performing in the gala, White Swan.
All
on
right. Now,
Saturday.
let me ask you this. And Stuart, I'll ask this on your behalf. Could she possibly get an autograph?
Of course.
Okay. All right. So how's
Of
that,
course.
Stuart?
That's great. Thank you.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call. 721-1290. We have 1 more. 1 minute. Now the people are calling when we're almost done. We have a 1 minute timeout. When we come back, we'll get Courtney on the line, and we'll be right back after this quick timeout. Okay, we're back, and real quickly, I want to get Courtney on the line. And Courtney, what I'm going to do, because you don't have enough headphones for our guests, if you wouldn't mind making your comment or asking your question, and we will have them answer. So go ahead.
Hello, thank you for taking my call. I'm curious, could you explain what the jury is looking for specifically tomorrow in the ballet competition as they're watching each dancer? What are all of the things running through their minds as they're judging each competitor?
Okay. So thank you for your call. Go ahead.
Gregor Hatala is following his ideas and lead for how he's had this structured in the past in the Viennese competition. And it starts with the basics. I mean, think about it like the Olympics. You know, you have to do the preliminary thing. The feet and legs have to be stretched and pointed. The pirouettes, you're not going to fall out of them. Obviously, if you do a disastrous jump or a fall, it might be a mark off. But primarily, it's the artistry. They're looking for the future artists, not just the future gymnasts or, performing monkeys kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. They're really looking for, once you've got the basics of your technique and everything, who really stands out apart in the choreography and not just the technique.
Now, some people are just naturally gifted, right? I'm sorry, you wanted to say something. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
You were pointing.
I was pointing at John in terms of...
Okay.
You want me to bring up what I brought up on the break?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, so we'll get a little maybe testy here. So
Yeah.
there is a sense. Honestly, if I went to get my father and take him to a ballet, I think he'd have a hard time. It'd probably be some convincing to get him to go. And I wonder if that's something unique with just my family, if that's something you see all over Midwest America. It seems to me like, especially for guys, it's hard to get in that. It's kind of like a heritage appreciation. And my dad didn't grow up watching ballet. When he wanted entertainment, he probably went to see a baseball game or maybe a movie. So it's a little bit difficult for him to get into. And the same thing, frankly, for him for the opera and other arts as well that require a big venue.
Well, first of all, I consider dancers athletes because it takes a lot of training, a lot of discipline. And my question will be for those people who are not very, they are afraid of the art. Mm-hmm. What are you afraid for? Are you afraid, if you're a man, are you afraid that your son is going to grow surrounded by women, healthy, with great bone structure? Is that what you're afraid of? I mean, that sounds good to me. That's all I will say. Maybe it might be the dream for a lot of men.
Well, there is something that I think a lot of football players have studied ballet.
True.
Because first of all, if you are strong throughout your entire body,
yes,
you won't be injured as badly, and you can recover more quickly from an injury if your entire body is in shape, not just certain areas of your body.
I mean, even falling, when you're being trained to be a dancer, you've been trained to fall, because there's a way of you not hurting yourself, and the balance, it gives you a lot of balance and a lot of reflex, according to a lot of core structure, there's just so much, and there's I always get asked, "Oh, how do you got such a nice legs?" And I was just like, "Dancing, bro."
Go ahead.
Well, I just had to interject. I used to be on teach in Chicago, and we had football players all the time.
Right.
So I'm coming from Chicago. It's like a no-brainer to me. Walter Payton was an excellent dancer. Lynn Swan was an excellent dancer. He even performed in the galas at Lincoln Center. Wow. And here's a well-known fact: at Hubbard Street Dance Company in Chicago, one of my superstar dancers, not necessarily from a dancer perspective, but because now he's the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel was a beautiful ballet dancer in white tights.
He may have to go back to dancing.
Maybe,
he's in a little bit of trouble right now.
I'm telling you, for 8 years, the man was at class.
Right.
You know, he was standing at the bar.
Now he's practicing the art of deflection.
I
Wanted to ask a question that we talked on the break earlier.
3 minutes.
And it was about the issue of anti-intellectualism. It's something that you brought up earlier. And I thought it would be interesting for people to hear, because I think there is an element of kind of a, I guess you could say, opposition towards things that seem like they're elitist or from an elitist bent. And that is definitely something I think people might associate with the ballet. We talked about that earlier. Why do you think that exists in America?
Still.
Well, that's a very interesting question. It's somewhat part of our culture. I think all you have to look at is the current political process right now, or listen to right-wing radio, where they're constantly putting down universities, putting down people of thought, putting down people of science, putting down creative people.
This is right-wing radio, by the way.
Is it?
It is. So maybe we're broadening your horizons here a little bit too.
I listen to right-wing radio in Chicago because I like to hear what they're talking about,
Well,
and it's
we're
often
amateurs.
very shockingly shocking to me because
we're
very,
amateurs compared to that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Here's what I have
well,
to
I
do.
think everything in Western Montana is probably right-wing radio.
We have only about a minute and a half. So if we could just get the nuts and bolts of where and when and how much and that sort of thing of the classes and the performances and where and when. So if you could just kind of go through that for us.
It's Wednesday. Sure. And when we leave here, I think we're heading to the Rotary Club. Also, there's 3 films at the Roxy today, sponsored by Dr. Mirdot Kia and the Center on Campus for Southwest Asia. And the first one is at 2 o'clock. It's a film about Nureyev, the great dancer, and it's produced by a French producer, Fabrice Hero, and that's going to be primarily for the ballet fans because it's early footage of Nureyev. Then we have Dancing in Jaffa at 5:30. That is a wonderful family film about children ballroom dancing in the Middle East and conflict resolution, basically, through dance. And the evening film is at the Roxy, again, at 8 o'clock, and it's The Desert Dancer, which is a story about a young man in Iran that becomes a ballet dancer.
You know, unfortunately, we're running out of time. I'm hard-timed here. I got less than a minute. So let's talk about the gala and how much that is and where.
It's at the Wilma, 1 p.m. Saturday. Tickets available at wilma.com. They're $25 to $100.
Are you expecting a sellout, I hope?
I'm counting on it.
Keep our fingers crossed. Well, I just want to say thank you to Walter, to Jorge, to you, Charlene, to Bridget, and, of course, Maria, Sasha, for being with us. And to all of you who enjoyed this, I hope you're treasuring this. This will be on our podcast later. If you missed it, have your friends listen to it. So.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll have Missoula County Public Superintendent Mark Thane on the program. Okay. For the first half hour, we'll talk about the State of the Union address.
Have a great day, everybody, and thanks for listening.